of the city. We ask that you guide all of us in this process. We especially ask that you guide our chosen leaders to carry out their duties for the betterment of our city, that they help us to establish harmony and good results for our citizens. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. We have an established quorum. We have Councilwoman Castillo, Councilman Morones, Councilman Guerrero, and Councilman Rodriguez. If everyone will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get started, I'd like to see if anyone, we have any citizen comments at this time? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, councillors. Take this opportunity to talk about the hotel motel tax. And I'm not sure if the city council people are aware how much is in that fund right now. $500 million. You know what it can be spent on? It can be spent on your event centre, for repairs, for maintenance, for staffing. It can reduce your day-to-day city budget if you will please use the hotel motel tax. When you drive into Floresville, virtually from any direction, our signs are a disgrace. For a city our size, we have signs that look like a backwoods Mississippi village. Hotel motel tax can be used to spend that money to replace those signs, to put new signage up. I would urge the city council please to get involved. Stop sitting on this money. You can't spend it. It can only be spent in certain areas. But let's spend it where it can be best. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I got good news. Steve Smith and Steve Butane gave me a check for $568 for the 300 flags. And they're going to ship them, Dixie Flag will ship them the 20th. And we've got a Boy Scout troop to put them in. So hopefully by the next meeting, I can tell you that the flags will be out there.
Thank you, Wilson. Anyone else? Okay, then we're going to go on to item 1, presentation and discussion. A, library summer program update.
Good evening. I am the Wilson County Public Library. I am the library director for the entire county. Today I brought with me our events coordinator, Sherry Manti. She is the backbone to our summer reading. When I get started, I'd like to first thank the city, thank Phelps and the city for the grant that they gave us this summer, and let me explain a little bit of what we did with it. For those who are unfamiliar with our summer reading program, it's a 6-week program that we do open up to the entire county. It has 2 parts to it. The first part is the one where children, actually it's all ages this year, you log your minutes or keep track of your titles, log them online, and then you put your name in for the drawing of certain prizes. The second half is where the library plans the events inside the library. And this year we have a very aggressive calendar of events. We were busy Monday through Saturday for 6 weeks. We had programs that twice, sometimes 3 times a week, or 3 times a day, all week long. I also gave out, I think you guys have the flyers or the talking points I gave to the county commissioners. This year, we were able to reach 838 individuals to join, and every year we've increased except one. Of those 838 people, the county library actually has 7,000 active card members. One of the good ways for us to judge with the active card members is your percentage. So we had approximately 11.64% of our active members participate this year in the summer reading program. We also, thanks to Sherry and another library assistant, we did an aggressive media push to all the schools. And we wanted to see, so we tracked their mailing addresses. For the city of Floresville, 585 people registered with us in a minimum of 200 minutes. I was really shocked to see there were a family of 11 from Tennessee join us. I can only surmise that that was a family from the oil fields that came to visit. Also on the back page, we also did a door count just to see, and every year I've kept the door counts for the months of June and July since I started with the library in 2009. This year, for the month of June, we actually topped out with 11,742 people walking through our door in 1 month. The other thing I'd like to let you know is we have some, what I consider to be aggressive plans for next year. It actually took up the whole page when I actually started writing it down. We would really like to be able to work with the city next year in creating a geocaching tour. I believe that's the way that families are now taking their vacations. And if you're not familiar with geocaching, through your smartphones, you're given clues, GPS locations. Sherry just came back from one, and it will be our main person to help me come up with these clues. It could be a ammo box, but inside is little trinkets and a log where you sign your name. And then for the summer, you would have to go to the next box. It's somewhere within the city. So this would be a perfect thing to do with parks or along the riverbanks, just something interesting for the whole family to get involved.
The Peanut is one of the locations for the geocaching, on the geocaching site.
And does it just say peanut? And you just find
It says nuts. And it gives you the location to track it to.
The other idea that we have to use the city's part or the credit for the grant is next May, we are in the works of planning a mini maker fair, which is for tinkers and hobbyists and electronic buffs that come. So we have already talked to the county extension office to try to plan a cosplay contest. So if you're not familiar with cosplay, you make a costume after your favorite television character, movie character, game character, but you have to make it yourself. So that's where the teams that we're talking to have been going. Our teen book club, who meets after hours, they are interested in doing a duct tape contest with the kids. So what new things can you build and use with duct tape? But those are some neat things. I also included a couple of charts if you're more of a visual person to see. And the charts include a comparison of all the years of actual planned activities, so you can see that they're going up. The one that I had the hands in doing is called a movie chat, where if you had a smartphone, we displayed a movie. We showed Despicable Me 1 and 2. If you have a smartphone, while this particular movie and software program was running, you could send text to the screen, and the text would pop up so you could answer them. And one time we do the Hunger Games 1 and 2, where we did a Trivial Pursuit, where Sherry hid throughout the library, and as we put up the clues, You had to go find Sherry in the library, and you couldn't disturb anybody else from their watching. You had to quietly get up, or if they were crawling on the floor, all trying to find her throughout the library. So the only place we did not accomplish our goal was on the adult side. So this next year, we're hoping with the Maker Fair, we're going to be able to reach those adults that make things. I think we have a gentleman who makes coffee mugs from PVC pipe that he wants to come and show you how he does that. So, is there any questions that I can answer about the library?
No, but thank you for a great job that y'all do.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I was following on Facebook a lot of the different pictures of sleepovers and things like that.
Oh, that was lovely. We had 50 stuffed animals that needed to spend the night in the library. We didn't say, but they did. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're going to go on to item 1B, Riverbend Draft PDD Agreement. Mr. Stewart?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Appreciate the opportunity to be back. And what I've come to you all this evening to do is give kind of an update. We've been working since about mid-April, early part of May with Richard Coates, the developer of the Riverbend project, on a development agreement and plan development district application. One of the precursor steps that we went through recently was amending Chapter 153 of the codes, the zoning regulations, so that we would be able to offer a planned development district as a zoning district as that possibility. So that was kind of our first step to making things happen. But since then, building on that, we've gone through a couple drafts of the planned development district, the development agreement. I have a brief handout here for you. You all had a chance to see that yet. It's going to kind of walk through it really quick. Just talk about kind of the context of where we've come from and what we're looking to do through this development agreement. First of all, first place we look is when we're tackling a planning issue is we look back to our future land use plan. And we see that there are a couple of policies that cover some of the issues that we're dealing with the Riverbend agreement. First of all, the first policy, growth should be orderly and enduring. Policy number 6, the city should continue a distributed approach to locating high-density residential across its area in order to provide a broad array of housing options and avoid undue concentration. Policy number 9, increasing the housing supply is a top strategic priority for the city. Further in the future land use plan, we have a section on park and open space, and just a couple quick lines from that. Access to parks has been shown to further active living as a lifestyle. So parks being something important, something we want to see as our land use plan grows and matures. The hike and bike trail, formerly a railroad, the civic center, and the magnificent pecan trees of City Park form a backbone to the city's park system. Connections can be made along floodplain areas that traverse the city. So that's just kind of a couple of things I've picked out of the future land use plan that bring us forward into thinking about the planned development district. And just as a reminder about the planned development district, what it is that we're trying to do, we're essentially offering more flexibility than you would get under the traditional zoning, but we should be receiving something in return that is, quote, better. An important condition upon which the approval of a planned development district must be considered is that while greater density or more lenient siting requirements may be granted, the planned development district should contain features not normally part of traditional developments. And that's straight out of our new regulation. And I've gone through and highlighted some of the words that I think capture that flavor. Innovative, better, preserves, coordinate, abundant, accessible, properly located public, open, and recreation space. efficient use of land, compatible, congruous. Just some language there to just think about. And then finally, I have a table here at the back, which just kind of summarizes the PDD zoning and the traditional zoning. I've looked at a couple of different parameters here. In terms of density, our current zoning allows up to roughly 14.5 units per acre in R2. What's being proposed under the PDD, under the development agreement, is up to 24 units per acre. So does this provide the developer some flexibility? Obviously it does, if he has that ability. Is it better, more innovative, or more efficient for us? Well, if we consider that there's a maximum of 900 units that could be supported based on the what's there, what's allowed in the TERS, then that's a policy consideration and that the council has to weigh in. The setbacks. Our traditional zoning allows 25-foot front, 15-foot side, 25-foot rear. What he's proposing is a much tighter configuration to allow for new housing types, so 10 to 15-foot front, 5-foot side, and 5 to 10-foot rear. Again, it offers him a lot of flexibility to bring in a mix of housing types, and I guess the more innovative and more efficient aspect of that is it allows these different housing types to happen. In terms of land uses, we would have R1, R2, and the B district under our traditional zoning with the setbacks and all and building height and all that apply. But under the PDD, he's able to mix those as the market, as he sees the market would require. He's limited to 20% of the total in some mix of the business. So again, some flexibility for him, but what it gives us is, again, that housing mix, and then the ability for those residents, newer residents, to walk to certain services. And then a couple items just to include on, and these are where I think we really talk about something that's better and in the spirit of our master plan. In terms of parks, we have no requirement in our zoning regulations or our subdivision regulations for the dedication of new parkland. But we know that that's something that we want to implement. And park and open space is also an important tool for transitioning land use and providing buffering where it's necessary. Under the agreement as it currently sits, there's 6 acres of proposed parkland and a continuation of the hike and bike trails where it's possible still on the railroad bed, and where it's not possible because the golf course is already developed in that area, then he's committed under the agreement to kind of a parallel track for that hike and bike trail. And finally, one of the things that we kind of anticipated with a lot of the new construction, and just given the state, the condition of some of the roads in Riverbend currently, we anticipate that those roads are going to get torn up as the new development comes in. And all those concrete trucks that come in, plumbing trucks, and all the trades that come in and out, that's going to put a lot of wear and tear on those roads. So what we've incorporated into this PDD is a road damage recovery provision, which establishes a fee that's paid at the building permit time by every lot. What we're recommending, and consulted with Mr. Heimer about this, what we're recommending is something on the order of $500 per lot would go into a separate fund that would be then utilized for repairing the roads if we need to going forward, so that we don't get a subdivision that's fully built out and then the roads are immediately falling apart, but we're outside of the warranty period. And that was a concern, particularly since we've been having some issues with those roads. So those are kind of some major areas that we've covered in the agreement. I believe you have a copy of the agreement in your packets. We're heading towards the August 28th meeting, when you guys are going to be taking this up. But we want to make sure that you have an opportunity now to take a look at it. This is essentially the effective agreement. And the only thing that needs to be added in here related to the road damage fee, and that information was provided by Mr. Heimer, and that's included in your packet as well. But you also see the various exhibits that go along with it that show the land use organization, the road network, the utility network, and as well as the construction standards that he's proposing to utilize, or be able to utilize under this agreement. So with that, I'll just kind of wrap it up there. I just wanted to give you all that update, kind of tell you what we negotiated for today and how, basically how I think this fits in with the work the Planning and Zoning Commission did early on and last year with the future land use plan and how we bring it forward into a new opportunity here with the Riverbend redevelopment. So, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to get an update on item 1C on Hospital Boulevard and Well project. Mr. Clerk.
Mayor, it's not hospital, it's plaza. It's not hospital, it's plaza.
Mayor and Council, my name is Tom Kirk, I'm with INS Engineering. We were hired 2 or 3 months ago to do the design of the water tank replacement at the Ladder tank site. If you're not familiar with where that is, it's behind the Ford dealership and next to the medical center. And on that site, you have a well facility. That's right here. It pumps water into an aeration basin that is elevated, and then water flows through that aeration basin into the existing storage tank. That's a ground storage tank. And then there's pumps here that pump from the storage tank into the elevated storage tank, which is on your right. It's not showing in the picture. So that's basically how the system operates at this location. What's driving this project is basically the poor condition of the roof of the existing tank. It has experienced some very severe corrosion around 20 vent locations. And you can see by these pictures, it's pretty bad in a few areas. The picture on the left, it shows the center where all of the bolted panels come together. And it's hard to see there, but there's actually a hole there that's been covered up with a piece of steel. I could have got a better picture, but Andrew wouldn't let me crawl out on the lid and take a closer picture. So, but anyway, that's a very important structural element of that tank, and the roof needs to be replaced. The problem is that to replace that roof, we need to take the tank out of service anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. We can't do that. So what we're going to be doing is constructing a brand new tank that's an identical size right next to it. There's a picture of the existing tank on the right and the pump house on the left. We're going to put that new tank right behind that piping. It's going to be at the same elevation, about the same size, and they're going to be interconnected, so when both of them are in service, that they operate more or less as one, even though there's two. This is a plan view of the same site. here is your well, here's your aeration chambers, here's the existing tank, here is the pump house, here is the elevated tank, and here's where the new tank's going to go, which is right next to the existing one. When we get done building the new tank and we get it connected so that it's in operation, we want to take the existing tank out of operation and replace the roof. We also want to go in there and clean it, and we want to put a coating on the inside to help it withstand some of the corrosive environment. And then we're going to put it back in the service. The project budget is a total of $156,000. The new tank is going to run somewhere in the neighborhood of $90,000, and that's going to be the base bid. The roof replacement is somewhere around $21,000, and that's going to be an alternate bid. So when we receive bids, we'll be able to choose whether we want to include the roof replacement or not. Because frankly, it's something that you can defer if you want to. I would like to see it done now, but if it comes in too high or for some other reason you want to defer it, you can.
Can that roof be replaced with an alternative material? Is there anything?
I guess it could. We haven't considered that. We were going to replace it with bolted steel panels, but with a different coating so that it withstands the environment a little better. Let me stop here because that reminds me I need to mention something here. These tanks should last a good 20 years. And this one was built 8 years ago, and it's corroding on the top. And we have not studied the aeration chamber, but we suspect that you have a high sulfur content in water, and that the aeration chamber is not working as well as it needs to take those levels down so you don't have a corrosive environment in that tank. So the new tank is going to have an epoxy coating which withstands sulfur environment a lot better than the existing tank. So that new tank should last a long time, and the new roof, if we're able to put it on, should also last a long time, which is a different kind of coating.
Now, would you suggest that the well be drilled deeper to get out of or would it
We're not
would it
touching
solve
the
it?
well. We're not touching the well at all.
But to get rid of that sulfur, would you suggest it?
It's in your supply, so I don't know that digging it any deeper is going to change that. We suggested to the city that they do a testing analysis of the water to see how much sulfur is there, and then testing of the water after it goes through the chamber to see how much is being treated, to see if that chamber needs to be modified or some of the treatment system needs to be constructed. We're working with them. So when you add in the engineering, inspection, contingency, and everything, we believe we're within that $156,000. Schedule-wise, where we are today is we've submitted 60% plans that have been reviewed by the city staff. We've received their comments, and we will be completing our design by the end of this month. That will allow us to bid the project sometime next month and come back to you with some kind of award recommendation in October. Contract can start in November. There's a month or two where the contractor is providing us with some notes to review. He goes through his fabrication. So much of the actual work will take place probably around the beginning of the year, starting in January and February, and hopefully finish up in March. And this is a near perfect time because that's a period of the least amount of water usage because of the weather. It's not hot. So the demand on your system won't be stressed. As far as we're concerned, everything has fallen into place like we should. There doesn't appear to be any issues that are problematic. It's gone pretty smooth to this point, and we expect construction to go pretty smooth as well. Are there any questions?
A clarification on the new versus the old and
Yes.
Will both of them be in service?
out of service for probably quite a while if you choose to do that. But we plan to put it back into service. The more storage,
Is it needed or can it be used elsewhere in the city?
tank, you're implying that it can be taken apart and put somewhere else? I guess it could. I don't know that that would make financial sense, but yes, it could be.
I'm not sure that we need another one someplace else.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, what's company need it for further growth? If we have both of
Yes,
them.
exactly. Yeah, I'd like to see the existing tank go back into service so that you have additional ground storage for growth in the area. Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, next we're gonna go on to 1D, the update on the water sewer model TCEQ license USDA application. Mr. Minor?
Mayor, Council, I'm Larry Heimer with Beery. Also brought with me tonight William Cossey. William's been the engineer working in the details of the three projects that we're working with y'all on. And we've been working coordinated with Andrew pretty much on a regular basis. But tonight you'd asked for an update on the sewer model and on the USDA application and then on the wastewater treatment plant permit renewal. And William will go through a short presentation on that, how he stands on each one of those items. On the sewer model, basically your agenda item said water and sewer model, but what we did on this project was we went through the first phase was to go through and create new system maps for the city for both sewer and water. But at this time, we have gone through working with your city staff and created existing system maps for all your sewer lines in your city. And so that work has been completed. All that information is in a digital format using GIS. So from time to time, whenever the Freight District updates their block maps in the city, we can update your maps very easily so that all the new subdivisions and lots that are being created can show up in that mapping system for you. So at this time, y'all don't have the computer capability and software to do that, but it's simply a simple GIS type software, which hopefully at some point in time y'all can get that in place that your folks can work with. But anyway, the maps have been completed. There's like 46 sections of the maps that create the entire system map of the city of Floresville. And those maps can also be used to add the water system in whenever y'all have time to get the budget to update those items. So anyway, tonight, William's going to talk about the sewer model and kind of the information that we've gotten out of that, some of the cost issues and projects that he has been working with Andrew about, and also the USDA application and the PER, which he's also working on. So William, why don't you go ahead and get up in there.
Thank you. Council members, Mayor. So let me start. So thank you for the introduction. So the topics are going to be the status of the wastewater model, the wastewater preliminary engineering report for the treatment plant expansion, the USDA grant, and then the wastewater treatment plant discharge permit with TCEQ. So first one on the wastewater model or collection system model. The modeling's been complete. We've identified the deficiencies based on the current flows. And then the drafts being reviewed right now by the city. So the deficiencies that we identified were some lines that showed based on slopes or size or surcharge, which means that they were full, the line was full, and it's maybe backing up a little bit in the manhole, or lines that are over from 95 to 100% capacity, which means that if you grow a little bit more, they're gonna be surcharged. Lines that were between 80 and 95% capacity, which we put that criteria in there because as you grow, if a line's at 80%, that's fine today, but in 20 years, it's probably you want to identify it that it needs to be increased. There's some that had some adverse slopes where basically the slope is opposite of what it should be, not bad, but it just wasn't going downhill, it was kind of going uphill. Which the issue with that is you got kind of a low point that you have some collection, you get some debris that'll collect in there, and then it's got to be over that little bridge. And then lines that show to be less than the TCEQ minimum requirement for that diameter of slope, or that diameter of pipe. Because they have regulations that you have a minimum maximum slope based on velocities for each diameter. So those are the categories that we have. And then, if you can kind of see, here's a map of the system. I know it's hard to read, but really stick on the colors. The green, this is the area we modeled. The green shows that everything's good based on the flows that we have today. And then if you see my cursor, there's some blue, which is capacity issues that are in this area. There's a little bit of blues down here. There's some adverse slopes. And that's kind of the main the areas. If you see that maybe some down in this area and over here is what we identify as potential problem areas.
Are you able to expand that a little bit more, or can you tell us where those blue areas are in reference to streets or?
The streets that are being affected is gonna be Goliad, Peach, going up 97, all the way up to J Street. Those are the blue areas he's talking about. Those are the areas that I call primary one.
Yeah.
That we need to address. The rest of the green, the city's okay on that. It's just the areas that I'm talking about. After we did the study and working with the very partners here, Larry and William, we identified, starting from the 97 lift station, going all the way up Hospital Boulevard, towards 91. Yes, and it curves into Pecan Park through the back. We go all the way on 6, all the way until we hit 7, and then it jumps across, and then we go up to J Street. Blue areas of concern.
I think from some of the big areas, the blue area there are those lines that are kind of carry flow from the Farruto Creek lift station to the Highway 97 lift station. And that area is probably, those two lift stations are two big concerns of ours that are being addressed in our PER, and also are identified in the cost that William has. And then also some of those gravity lines between those two lift stations are pretty much at capacity. So those are some of the big components of our PER that we're going to be going forward with USDA with.
Answer? Because I have a list in here on the streets, okay, but that's pretty much what Andrew mentioned. So that's the model that we have, and like we talked about on the model, it's in Excel, so Andrew can go and we'll work with Andrew on, as development comes in, or areas, or if there's any changes in piping or anything like that, you can adjust it, and it basically updates it automatically. So we can work with him on how to input this stuff, and it's pretty user friendly. So, on the preliminary engineering report for the USDA grant and the wastewater treatment plant expansion, it's going to be formatted, like we said, to the USDA out format, which is pretty extensive, but there's a lot of items they want, but we're going to meet all the requirements. And as Larry mentioned, it'll include the Highway 90 lift station, Pajarito lift station, and the collection system recommendations will be included in that PER. We'll have a description of it, and then also the cost associated with that. And then we are anticipating delivering a draft for review by the end of September. And then on the dealing with the wastewater treatment plant on the PER side, we're evaluating components for primary treatment, which is pretty much is oxidation, secondary treatment, which would be clarification, return activated sludge pump station, disinfection, sludge dewatering, sludge handling, discharge piping for the effluent, and then the outfall structure. those would be the components that we're evaluating. And for most of those, we need to come up with alternative treatment methods and stuff to meet the requirements of the USDA. Wow, that's really small. But, look better on my screen. But, so, the components we're talking about is like, here's the existing primary treatment, and we're looking at somewhere in this area adding a new primary treatment, which we would abandon this or use it as an alternative, maybe equalization basin or some other alternative use. But the primary treatment would be right here. Secondary treatment currently is the 2 clarifiers, and we're probably looking at another clarifier right here. The return activated sludge pump station maybe right here. We got the sludge. Usually you have the sludge drying beds, but whatever sludge dewatering and handling method would probably take up half that volume, unless we go back with sludge drying beds. And then we have disinfection, which is right next to the existing disinfection system, which is the chlorine contact chamber. And then we have the outfall here, and a wet well here in case you have some flooding issues with the river. So, but those would be kind of the layout of the components of where it would be all grade areas.
Hey, wait a minute.
Yes.
Go back to the section where you were saying the drying beds.
Yes.
Okay, right there, one of the recommendations is to have a low press.
Yes. Yeah, we're evaluating, one of the alternatives is gonna be a belt press. But also, we're gonna have to look at drying beds and some other things, because we gotta look at 3 alternatives. So one of them will definitely be a belt press. Maybe like a belt press, centrifuge, and drying beds. And then it's gonna look at not only capital costs, but operating costs, handling costs, and trucking costs, and everything else to come up with recommendations. And maintenance and operations and, because your staffing is limited, you can't have somebody out there 24/7, so it's also harder. So, but yeah, that's part of our evaluation. And what I mentioned to Andrew earlier was our next step on a PER is to sit down with him and make sure we go through and we actually look at the alternative treatment or design alternatives that he wants to make sure we go with, and we don't miss something that he knows he wants us to look at. So on the TCQ wastewater treatment plant discharge permit, the existing permit expired March 1st, 2015. We submitted a draft permit into TCQ on August 4th. And just so everybody's aware, it does not include the plant upgrade recommendations or expansion recommendations. It's because it's a renewal of the plan is right now. We don't have it phased. So when we do PER and the plant is upgraded, part of that task would be we need to do a major amendment to the permit. And that's my time, I need to go. But we'll have to do a major amendment to the permit.
Is there somebody cell phone going on for that?
Well, we'll have to do a major amendment on the permit, but that's just the process of what we're going to do. The steps on where the permit stands right now, the steps we have left is submitted TCQ. We anticipate it being, these are worst case scenarios, we anticipate it being administrative complete in 40 days. That's with their review, they send us back comments, we respond, they have another 14 days, and that should get it administrative complete. Then we have an advertisement period, which it has to advertise 45 days, but I put 60 in there. Any issues that are addressed, any issues that are identified in the advertisement period would be the draft permit issued. They issued the draft after the first advertisement, they issued the draft permit, there's a second advertisement period, and then the final permit would be issued after 14 days. So, and then with that, we're gonna evaluate, alternatives for sludge handling and sludge dewatering or drying. And I'm anticipating right now that we're looking at a belt press, probably a centrifuge, which is a little more expensive, but it gets a higher quality sludge, and possibly grind beds. But that's because we need to look at those alternatives and look at operating costs, capital costs, operating costs, operations issues and stuff like that.
You still would have to have it all done.
Yes, yes, ma'am, yeah. No matter what system we do, it's still gotta be hauled off. But what you wanna do is you wanna get it dry, as dry as you can with the hauling costs. And you're paying by weight, and then also if it's too wet, then they gotta mix it there, and then that costs more money too.
Currently right now, we're paying $90 a ton. If we were to go with a method such as the bell press, it would be dry, and we'd be paying $20 a ton.
Yeah.
So that's a big savings right there.
It's not being hauled off dry right now?
Well, it's being hauled off as dry as you can get it with the system they have, the boxes. Each process has a little, different.
Yeah, the dry process.
Right. And it's just, like I said, the cost of the hauling is, the hauling cost is you're carrying it, hauling it, and then it's also, they have a process here that's a little too bad to dry it out to get it into the landfill. So, but that cost, like Andrew was talking about, that would be part of, because we need to look at a life cycle cost of all these things, so that would be part of the evaluation. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank y'all.
Okay, at this time, we're going to go on to item 2, new business. A, consideration and adoption of a resolution by the City Council of the City of Floresville, Texas, approving the city's preliminary official statements pertaining to the sale of obligations designated as City of Floresville, Texas, Electric Light and Power System Improvement Revenue Bonds, Series 2014, and City of Floresville, Texas, Electric Light and Power System Junior Lien Revenue Refunding Bond, Series 2014, complying with the requirements contained in the United States Securities and Exchange Commission's Rule 15C2, 12, and other matters in connection therewith. Mr. Lee.
Mayor, thank you very much. Council, Andrew Turner, thank you for allowing us to come here tonight. As you can see on the agenda, what the Phelps is asking to provide, to approve what's called a preliminary official statement. It's one of the steps in the process that the Floresville Light and Power System needs in order to sell bonds and issue debt for monies received for capital and construction projects. I brought a couple of folks with us here tonight, so if you have any questions specific for one of the areas that they serve, I'd be more than happy to step to the lectern as well and speak to you. I've got Dusty Traylor from RBC Capital. I've got Pat Binford, attorney from Fulbright and Wall Street, and of course Marcy Jacobs. She's the health finance manager. So we've got a full team of folks here. If you have any questions about a specific part of the bond process that either I can't answer, at least they'll be here to give their expertise on it. I'll give you a quick overview of the bond process. Historically, Phelps has issued debt once every 3 years. This is not something we typically do on an annual basis. And we do this in conjunction with the city of Floresville and issue this debt under the umbrella of the city. We originally, as part of our financial forecast, had planned to ask for $11.5 million in debt this year. We have done a little bit of further analysis and have decided to only ask for $9.5 million, $2 million than was originally part of our forecast. And as you know, a financial forecast is something to put together. It's just a roadmap. It's not set in stone. It's not a budget. It's just a forecast put together what we think we will need in debt for our capital expenditures over time. There's really two main reasons we dropped down from $11.5 million to $9.5 million. The biggest reason is the revenue bonds that exceed $10 million in value are no longer what they call bank qualified debt. Therefore, any bonds that exceed that amount would have a higher interest rate and, of course, would cost the system much more money to repay. And it's not just the additional $1.5 million over the $10 million you have to pay the higher interest rate, it's the entire $11.5 million. So after some analysis and some figuring what we would pay in additional interest fees, we made a determination that the money got too expensive, quite frankly. It's the simplest way to put it. The second thing on the reason for dropping it from $11.5 million down to $9.5 million is right now we don't think we need that money for construction and capital outlay. To make it in very simple terms, we didn't want to borrow $50,000 for a $40,000 car. So we think it would be more prudent for the system to A, pay a lower interest rate and therefore be able to pay back the debt sooner, and B, not take in more money than we need at the time. And as you know with revenue bonds, once you take the money, there are requirements that you spend that money on specific projects in a certain amount of time. And we thought it was unlikely that we could prudently spend that money in 3 years. Another plan that we have is we've revised our financial forecast in the last year. We are incorporating ways to borrow less money for capital and construction and spend more cash on hand. This plan right now with the $9.5 million in bond sale money and the debt issuance would mean we'd spend about 75% of our capital and construction fund would be from debt, 25% from cash on hand. In 3 years, when we come to you in 2017 to go through this process again, we hope to have 2/3 in debt and 1/3 in cash. And then when we come to you in 2020, we've developed a plan so we can go 50% debt, 50% cash. Long-range plan is to have less debt service onto the system and have more cash expenditures. We're going to be a more prudent and a more worthwhile way to spend our customers, our citizens' money. Second part of this